Hi, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Dave. We're the IB English guys. We want to talk about the areas of exploration. This is an essential organizing framework for IB English, and I think this will be a good way to kick off the school year. We can think about the IB graphic that they've made for IB English. We see our courses at the center, literature and language and literature. Right outside that, we see the areas of exploration. We see readers, writers, and text. We see time and space, and we also see intertextuality. We want to think about those areas of exploration.
Yeah, we can think about those as questions or access points for us to interrogate the course and think more deeply about the course. So make sure you understand these as you go through IB English.
Okay, our first area of exploration is readers, writers, and text. This is that relationship, that rhetorical triangle where writers are constructing texts and communicating with readers. That's essential. We want to think about who made this, how did they make this, and what do we do as readers? What do we do with this text? So we can think about at the center, authors are making deliberate choices. They're making all those rich choices about the language they use, the structure of the text, all of those things to shape meaning. We can also think about reading is not a passive activity, that readers are also co-creating meaning and bringing their own identity and their own experience to the reading experience. And that relationship between a writer and what they intend and the reader and how they interpret is not a fixed thing, and it's not something that's that simple. And that's readers, writers, and texts.
Yeah, a great example for readers, writers, and text is the film Parasite, an Academy Award-winning film from Bong Joon-ho. And in this film, Bong makes deliberate choices with the house, the smell, with the staircases, with tonal shifts, and these choices deliberately shape meaning for the readers. Now, readers bring different experiences to the film as well. Korean viewers saw this as a film about class and class distinction, whereas Western viewers did not fail. They failed to see it in that way because they have different cultural backgrounds and experiences. So you have the same film, the same choices, but vastly different effects on the viewer.
Yeah, we can take Shakespeare's Hamlet, a classic play, and think about all the rich authorial choices that Shakespeare included. We can think of the inclusion of a ghost. We can think about this idea of Hamlet's characterization, his hesitation, and his complexity. We can think about the play within a play. All those things were deliberate choices that Shakespeare made to capture the attention and imagination of that live audience. Every generation is going to interpret Hamlet in their own way, and they're going to be thinking about how they might interpret that depending on their own experience. So every director, every actor has their own interpretation of Hamlet. And that openness of the play Hamlet is what makes it a play that's so incredibly rich to interpret and think about.
Yeah, the next area of exploration for us to consider is time and space. And this time we're thinking deeply about context. We're thinking about the historical, political, and cultural moments in which a text was received, in which a text was produced. We also want to think about really zero in on the context in which that play or which that work is received, because that greatly shapes meaning for the reader. And there's also time and space within a text. Sometimes writers write about a particular time period outside of their own context if they want to offer some sort of critique. So time and space is critical.
Yeah, 1984 has all three of those elements in it. We can think about the context of 1984 and when it was produced. George Orwell wrote this dystopian novel in 1948 as a direct response to Stalinism and how democracy was so fragile. And he was really trying to capture his readers' attention about those stakes and from their own lived experience after World War II. We can think about how that is received now and why now 1984 really evokes ideas about surveillance, about fake news, about the weaponization of language, all those things that are in 1984 that has made it have a resurgence and makes modern readers really perk up.
The Great Gatsby is also a great text to consider with regards to time and space. Of course, this was written by Fitzgerald in 1925 during the Jazz Age, and he was speaking out about consumerism and thinking about the American dream. However, if we receive that text now, we perceive it very, very differently because the American dream has different values, different ideals, and people see consumerism and materialism very differently now than they did in 1925. So time and space for The Great Gatsby is also great to consider.
Yeah, that's great. The last area of exploration is intertextuality. This is kind of one of my favorites. We're thinking about how texts communicate with each other and the connections we can make between texts. We want to do this often throughout our course. This is really central to many of the assessments, paper 2 and the individual oral especially. We can think about how every text is echoing or borrowing or transforming texts that came before it. And that's one way to look at it. We can think about those intertextual connections. They can be very explicit. For example, if you have a retelling or an adaptation, like Baz Luhrmann's retelling of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, we're thinking, or it could be something a little more implicit or something buried in like a common common motif or a theme. And understanding those connections between texts helps you understand both texts on a richer level.
With respect to intertextuality, we can consider The Things They Carried, a compilation of short stories written by Tim O'Brien. We can consider the photography of Philip Jones Griffiths, both taken during the Vietnam period. In The Things They Carried, we see how the truth of war can only be told through specific viewpoints, and O'Brien fictionalizes the account of war. But if we look at that in terms of intertextuality, we can look at the photography of Philip Jones Griffiths and see the reality of that war. Both of these authors use their own medium to create stories about Vietnam.
Two more texts we can apply with intertextuality are Margaret Atwood's dystopian novel, The Handmaid's Tale, and Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. Both of these texts really explore this idea of theocracy, about fear, and how it's kind of weaponized through public ritual. You think about all the rich rituals in The Handmaid's Tale and all the use of ritual in The Crucible. And they both also talk about the female body is really the site of where different societies have their deepest anxieties, and that's interesting. And both authors are really communicating a message that this idea of theocratic hysteria and this rich fear is not just something from history. This is something that any society can produce when fear is more present than freedom.
So there you have it, the three areas of exploration. We have readers, writers, and text, time and space, and intertextuality. Increase your understanding of these areas of exploration, and you can achieve greater depth in your study of IB English.
Thanks, guys.